Today we are going to be looking at the Nazirite vow, a vow made to consecrate oneself to the Lord. And the Lord has described the Nazirite vow in this section, and we're going to see the different rules and restrictions that are placed upon the Nazirite so that they can be holy and consecrated to the Lord. Numbers 6:1. And the Lord said to Moses, 6:2, say to the Israelites, when either a man or a woman shall make a special vow, the vow of a Nazirite, that is, one separated and consecrated to the Lord. People wanted to devote themselves to the Lord. They wanted to follow after the Lord. And some people that were really serious, they wanted to pledge themselves to the Lord. But there was no system in place until now. Now we have the Nazirite, which is a framework that God made up for those that wanted to devote themselves to the Lord to the point of they wanted to make a pledge. They wanted to offer themselves to the Lord. And we see that this is not restricted by gender. Both men and women could take on this Nazirite vow, which is different than what we saw previously with the priesthood. The priesthood was the sons of Aaron. So I guess it's, if you're not related, you can't get in, for one thing, but you also have to be the right gender to get in as well. And there's other restrictions too, especially when it comes to blemishes. There was restrictions on the blemishes that one could have and function as a priest. We do not see that restriction here with the Nazirite. So it is almost an open system. But once one commits to this vow, once they offer themselves to the Lord, there's going to be some restrictions put in place on their conduct and what they are able to do. Numbers 6:3. He shall separate himself from wine and strong drink. He shall drink no vinegar or wine or strong drink. He shall drink no grape juice or eat grapes, fresh or dried. 6:4. All the days of his separation he shall eat nothing produced from the grapevine, not even the seeds or the skins. We have a prohibition here on wine and all the things involved with wine. And in those days, if you were to take some grapes and you were to juice them and put them in a vessel, they would ferment pretty easily on their own. So it's easy to understand what is meant there when it refers to wine. I mean, I guess you could make wine out of things other than grapes. You could make wine out of a lot of different fruits relatively easily. Just a matter of mashing them and placing them in a vessel, and then the bacteria goes to work, the wild yeast, and it will ferment. Now, when it is referring to strong drink, this is basically anything that is alcoholic. It's not necessarily a reference to the idea of distilled liquors, things of a very strong alcoholic content. Beer would be considered a strong drink, something that possesses enough alcohol to have the ability to inebriate somebody. It doesn't have to be something super duper strong, because that stuff didn't really exist in those days. So that's what it is referring to. And they're not allowed to drink that. Numbers 6:5. All the days of the vow of his separation and abstinence, there shall no razor come upon his head, until the time is completed for which he separates himself to the Lord. He shall be holy, and shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow long. So there's a restriction on hair. Cutting of the hair, I should say. And this restriction includes beards. So in the case that this Nazirite is a male, he is not allowed to shave his beard. His beard needs to grow and be nice and bushy and really cool like that, and have nice long hair continuing to grow without cutting the hair. This is something that would make an individual stick out, especially in those days, and even these days to a much lesser degree. It's getting more fashionable again, just like the 70s. And something else to be mentioned here is that a lot of the reason why artistic depictions of Jesus, which I would probably classify as a graven image, of having really long hair, is that some suppose that he may have taken the Nazirite vow or embraced the Nazirite ideals and had really long hair. But I don't think that's necessarily the case, but just going to mention it here anyway. Numbers
6 and 6. All the days that he separates himself to the Lord, he shall not go near a dead body.
The Lord is not the God of the dead, he is the God of the living. And we saw the priest being prohibited from being around the dead. Only the next of kin, and I guess the high priest, he was even more restricted than the regular priest. But God does not want to be the God of the dead, or interpreted in that way. He is a living God, and he is a God of the living. So we have this consecration here, and this prohibition placed on the Nazirite to not be near the dead. Numbers
6 and 7. He shall not make himself unclean for his father, mother, brother, or sister, when they die, because his separation and abstinence to his God is upon his head.
The prohibition on the interacting with the dead is even more severe than it is for the high priest. And as far as I know, this is the highest level of prohibition on interacting with the dead. He's not even able to attend the funeral of a next of kin. So this is pretty serious stuff. Numbers
6 and 8. All the days of his separation and abstinence he is holy to the Lord.
When this vow is made, maybe there was a time frame on it, that there would be a limit and they would only be a Nazirite unto a certain point, or maybe it was something that he was planning on doing for the rest of his life. But we see that the Lord accepts this and the individual is treated as holy. Numbers
6 and 9. And if any man dies very suddenly beside him, and he has defiled his consecrated head, then he shall shave his head on the day of his cleansing. On the 7th day he shall shave it.
6 and 10. On the 8th day he shall bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons to the priest to the door of the tent of meeting. 6:11. And the priest shall offer one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering, and make atonement for him, because he sinned by reason of the dead body. He shall consecrate his head the same day. Death comes as a thief in the night. It comes unannounced, and sometimes it just happens. It just occurs. And this Nazirite here, he's exposed to somebody who has passed away. And as a result, he has to shave his head. And we have a 7-day cleansing procedure before he can resume his vow as a Nazirite. Numbers 6:12. And he shall consecrate and separate himself to the Lord for 7 days of his separation, and shall bring a male lamb a year old for a trespass or guilt offering. But the previous days shall be void and lost, because his separation was defiled. So the Nazirite, he has been exposed to death, and he has been defiled by being exposed to death. And as such, he needs to get cleaned up. He has to be cleansed. So there's this whole cleansing process. There's offerings being made, offerings to help him be cleaned up. Afterwards, he needs to resume his Nazirite vow, or the path of the Nazarene. That sounds kind of cool. And so more offerings are made to resume the process so he can continue on with the Nazirite vow. When it comes to starting the Nazirite vow, the duration is established. How many months or years or whatever it is going to be until the Nazirite vow is over. So if it's 180 days, well, he had to take a week off, so he has to work another week to make up for that lost time that occurred when he was defiled, for he wasn't holy and consecrated to the Lord during that juncture of time. So Numbers 6:13. And this is the law of the Nazirite when the days of his separation and abstinence are fulfilled. he shall be brought to the door of the tent of meeting. There's a couple ways of getting out of the Nazirite vow. This is the intended one here, that at the end of the duration, that the time period is over, the Nazirite vow is completed, and as we'll see in a second, there's a bunch of offerings that are made. Another method would be, as we saw earlier in Leviticus, the option to pay out of the vow, to give an amount of money, the value of a person, whether it was male or female, depending on the age. There was like an actual, I was going to say dollar amount, but it was like out of silver. So temple silver, how many shekels it's going to be. And one could ransom themselves out of this vow and pay for their freedom. Of course, the third option is to go rogue and to break the vow, and, well, hopefully nothing bad happens, but that can be an alternative as well. Numbers 6:14, and he shall offer his gift to the Lord, one he-lamb a year old without blemish for a burnt offering, and one ewe-lamb a year old without blemish for a sin offering, and one ram without blemish for a peace offering. 6:15, and a basket of unleavened bread, cakes of fine flour mingled with oil, and wafers of unleavened bread spread with oil, and their cereal offering, and their drink offering. 6:16, and the priest shall present them before the Lord, and shall offer the person's sin offering and his burnt offering. I don't know if there was a minimum length for making a Nazirite vow. Maybe there was, but I would think that most of them were longer in duration, either months or years. And as such, it would be quite a celebration when they end and it is successfully completed. So all these offerings and things are made to the Lord. It's probably like a big old party, a big old celebration, a glorious day, a time of thanks and gratitude towards the Lord for the deliverance of getting through this vow. I'm sure some people, they really struggled to get through, and at the end they were just happy it was over because the restrictions were so heavy, but it's hard to say. There's probably more than one outcome because there's different people that would have taken on this vow. Numbers 6:17, and he shall offer the ram for a sacrifice of peace offering to the Lord, with the basket of unleavened bread. The priest shall offer also its cereal offering and its drink offering. 6:18, and the Nazirite shall shave his consecrated head at the door of the tent of meeting, and shall take the hair and put it on the fire which is under the sacrifice of the peace offerings. All this time, all this hair, it probably got very long. So to cut the hair here in this circumstance was probably a very emotional event. I could see people in tears as they're shaving their head. Numbers 6:19, and the priest shall take the boiled shoulder of the ram, and one unleavened cake out of the basket, and one unleavened wafer, and shall put them upon the hands of the Nazirite, after he has shaven the hair of his separation in abstinence. So after the Nazirite is shaven, the priest hands him some of the items. We have the shoulder and some of the bread products. Numbers 6:20, and the priest shall wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. They are a holy portion for the priest, with the breast that is waved, and the thigh or shoulder that is offered. And after that, the Nazirite may drink wine. So then we have the priest doing the wave offering to conclude this ceremony, and he gets his portion at that time. Numbers 6:21, this is the law for the Nazirite who has made a vow. His offering to the Lord, besides what else he is able to afford, shall be according to the vow which he has vowed. So shall he do according to the law for his separation and abstinence as a Nazirite. The Nazirite thing's pretty cool, and later on in the Bible we have a real interesting story about an individual that is consecrated to the Lord, and he grows out his hair real long and fights armies with donkey jawbones, if my memory holds strong and firm. It is quite an adventure, and we'll see that in a few books. But Numbers 6:22, and the Lord said to Moses. 6:23, say to Aaron and his sons, this is the way you shall bless the Israelites. Say to them. 6:24, the Lord bless you, and watch, guard, and keep you. 6:25, the Lord make his face to shine upon, and enlighten you, and be gracious, kind, merciful, and giving favor to you. 6:26, the Lord lift up his approving countenance upon you, and give you peace, tranquility of heart, and life continually. 6:27, and they shall put my name upon the Israelites, and I will bless them. This chapter ends off with a small section on how the priests are to bless the people of Israel. Don't know how much this was done or in what ceremonial function it was done, but this was the method that it was done. So we know the method, but we don't really know the quantity or where this was necessarily done. Maybe someone was giving an offering and the priest blessed them. It's hard to say. It doesn't really say here, so there's not really much to go on there.